Yes, again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is DG Huey Live again, broadcasting from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And we are live in YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and in Facebook of Family Services, Filipino Family Services. So today, we are privileged to have a visitor from Parliament of Canada, member from the riding of Montreal riding. So a very dear friend of Filipinos here in particularly in Montreal in Montreal. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest for today, Honorable Impi Anthony House Father. Ayan. Sir, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you too for having time for us.
Pleasure.
Anyway, so we are here, sir, because we're going to discuss about budget of 2023, how this budget affects to the Canadian and particularly to the Filipino community in Canada
Yes.
as a whole. So again, sir, can you give us the background of the total budget of 2023?
Sure. Well, I would say that the budget of 2023 hits three major areas. One of them is healthcare and dental care. One of them is affordability. And one of them is changing our economy in a big transition to move to green energy, green jobs. And there's a lot of investments in each one of them. And I would like to highlight some of the things that probably are the most important to Canadians and the Filipino community in particular. So as you know, in our riding in Mount Royal and in Montreal and perhaps across Canada, there are many Filipinos who are involved in healthcare. And one of the things that is the most frustrating is when foreign credentials for nurses, for doctors, for other healthcare professionals are not recognized by Quebec or other provinces. So one of the highlights of this budget is a national attempt led by the federal government to streamline foreign credentials recognition for healthcare professionals so that Canada's well-trained health professionals that come from the Philippines can work much more easily in hospitals like the Jewish General Hospital in riding. Then another thing that, of course, we're going to do is give an extra $195 million to the provinces to do certain targeted things with healthcare. We all need to have a family doctor. This money will help the provinces get family doctors for everyone. We all know that there's some medical procedures where they're crazy long wait times, and that we're waiting much too long in emergency rooms. This money will go to helping shorten those wait times. And finally, again for Filipino Canadians, many of them serve as caregivers. And part of the money is to support personal support workers. So there's a top-up that's being given by the government to provinces to better pay personal support workers. And then finally, on the healthcare side, one of the things that's always sort of weird to me is that we let Canadians get all their healthcare free. Now, some things we do better than others, but it means nobody goes broke when they have to go to the hospital. But we don't have national dental care. So basically, even though your teeth are an important part of your health, and we all know that gum disease and other diseases that we have in our bodies, we didn't guarantee people the money to go to the dentist to fix their teeth and their gums. So now we're in the second stage of a dental care program. Last year we started it with 12 and under. This year it's going to go to people 18 and under, and
and
seniors,
seniors,
so
so
people
people
65 and
65 and
over,
over,
and
and
those who
those
have
who
a
have a
disability.
disability.
And
And
by
by
2025,
2025,
it will
it
go
will
to
go to
all
all
Canadians
Canadians
whose
whose
family
family
income is
income is
$90,000 or
$90,000 or
less.
less.
So
So
at
at
least
least
in
in
addition to
addition to
having
having
health
health
care,
care,
Canadians
Canadians
who
who
earn
earn
$90,000
$90,000
in their
in their
family or
family or
less
less
will now
will
have
now have
access to
access to
dental care
dental care
too.
too.
And
And
so
so
I'm
I'm
happy to
happy to
answer any
answer any
questions on the
questions on the
healthcare
healthcare
side, but I
side, but I
think those
think
are the
those are the
highlights.
highlights.
Yes, sir. Canada, sir, is importing labor force. So does this budget allocated for amount for ensure that the Canadian or the resident that are coming here uh, to Canada will be sufficient, especially in the healthcare aspect?
You mean
You
will
mean will
foreign
foreign,
will
will
people
people
moving
moving
here
here
be
be
given
given
healthcare? Is that
healthcare? Is
what
that
you're
what you're
asking,
asking,
Gabriel?
Gabriel?
What I'm asking, sir, Canada is importing labor force. So, but the question is there's a sufficient allocated budget for them so that they can live in a good standard living in Canada, or does because these people that we are imported now is most of them are in the healthcare. Is there enough budget for that, sir?
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean, one
mean,
of the
one of the
things
things
again we're
again
trying
we're
to
trying to
do is
do
make
is
sure
make
their
sure their
credentials are
credentials are
recognized,
recognized,
and there
and there
is
is
$1.6
$1.6
billion
billion dollars
over
over
6
6
years
years
to
to
help
help
welcome
welcome
immigrants,
immigrants,
Okay.
meaning
meaning
to
to
integrate them
integrate
into
them
the
into the
Canadian
Canadian
society,
society,
to
to
assist
assist
them,
them,
and to
and to
reduce the
reduce the
backlogs that
backlogs
we
that
all
we all
know
know.
exist when we're trying to bring family members over from the Philippines and other places. So that money is there, but one of the things that's also important in this budget is affordability. We all know that inflation rates have been going up, although they're starting to come down again, and that it's harder to buy groceries for your family, and that it's harder to pay your monthly expenses.
Correct.
So for 11 million Canadians who are low and modest income, we are adding something that we're calling the grocery rebate that will provide couples with 2 children an extra $467, and single Canadians without children an extra $234, and seniors with an extra $225 through the GST credit, to be able to have a little bit more in their pockets to pay for expenses. Also, as you know, we previously announced $500 for low-income renters, and we're going to take other measures as well to make things more affordable. For example, one of the things that is interesting is, as you know, we're sometimes behind the Philippines and other countries. Definitely, when we take pictures and you see the camera holder that people have, which nobody here has. So one of the things that some countries have done is they said that all electronic devices should have one charger. So you don't have to buy many, many different chargers for all of your different electronic devices. This budget, I know it's weird that it's in a budget, talks about introducing a common electric charger so that manufacturers will have to provide one universal charger in Canada. Another thing that's interesting is a lot of times it's very frustrating when you have an electronic device and you have to go back to the manufacturer to repair the device at a very high cost when the store down the street, if they were allowed, would be able to repair it for you. This budget introduces a right to repair with the aim of introducing a framework where all electronics and home appliances can be repaired without having to go back to the manufacturer by 2024. And another interesting thing for many Filipino people in my riding have small businesses. And they've talked to me about how frustrating it is with the transfer payments they have to make when they accept bank cards and credit cards from people, that it's a very big payment that they have to make. So basically, what we're doing in this budget is we're saying that the relationship between the banks and the small businesses, the payment for accepting bank cards and credit cards has to come down. And that's an important thing. And we're also outlawing for those people who are taking payday loans usurious interest rates. So a payday interest rate, payday lenders cannot charge more than $14 per $100 borrowed. And nobody can charge an annual interest rate more than 35% of the annual percentage rate. So we're trying to bring down costs for individuals and businesses that have to take down loans.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff in there that I can go through, because we're trying to do a lot of things. Like mortgage holders, we're going to create a mortgage code of conduct to make sure that the people who have mortgages over people have to adjust payment schedules or extend amortizations when somebody is in trouble. We're trying our best to make sure all Canadians are treated fairly and all little businesses are treated fairly, and that's another important part of this budget.
Okay. No, that's very good news for us, especially in your riding. So that's a very big help for especially those who are small businesses.
Well,
So.
yeah, and one of the ways that they did it is they reached an agreement with Visa and MasterCard
Mhm, mhm.
to lower fees for small businesses, and they estimate that it will save small businesses $1 billion over 5 years. Basically, the two credit card companies have agreed to reduce their interchange fees by 27%. So small businesses should now only pay about 3/4 of what they were paying before when they accept credit card payments.
Yeah. Sir, can you lobby also that the payment or the monthly payment, especially those who are user, especially like us, we're just earning little, but the charge, our bank charge monthly is around $16. So can the federal government do something about it?
I mean, we do regulate banks. I
Mm-hmm.
don't see anything in the budget related to bank fees for accounts. Are you now talking about a bank fee on a checking account?
Particularly, sir, checking account and
Yeah, I
something like
don't.
that.
I honestly don't see anything in the budget on that issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll take it back. I mean, it was not in this year's budget, but it doesn't mean it can't be in a future year's budget.
Yes, sir. So there's another question, sir, because one of the concern of the Filipino Family Services in Montreal that there's a lot of seniors, especially in your riding, that is suffering from vertigo. The question is, do you know how many seniors above 75 in your ridings? Do you have the statistic of it?
How
And what
many
are
seniors? The actual number. So in my writing, I would say that about 18% of my writing is
Mhm,
seniors, 18 to 20%. So
mhm,
in our writing, we have about 115,000 people.
mhm.
So that would mean somewhere around 22,000 seniors.
Okay. So what are the uh, budget for this senior, sir? Especially for.
So for the people that are older, 75 years of age and older,
Mhm,
we have increased the old age security by 10% as of July 2022, which basically provides about $800 in additional support to pensioners. And
mhm.
we've also, for the poorer seniors, increased the GIS and the GST tax credit. The GIS has been increased twice, the guaranteed income supplement, over the last few years. And there have been various one-time payments made to these seniors during the pandemic and outside of it. One of the other important things for us, more than for the seniors, is that we've also taken steps to strengthen the Canada Pension Plan, which will eventually raise retirement benefits by up to 50%. And one of the things that's really important, of course, is to make sure seniors now can live in dignity, but
Mhm.
also to make sure that those of us in our 40s and 30s and 50s are also able to get a pension when we become seniors, and not to have the thing go bankrupt one day.
Correct.
So we've needed to take steps to fix the Canada Pension Plan that now is should be solvent for the time that people even today in their 20s will become seniors, because we've taken those steps. Unlike the United States, which is having a real problem with their old age security, because we are lucky in the sense that we went into the pandemic and we still have the lowest debt ratio in the G7, meaning that what the federal government spends on interest versus what they spend on services to Canadians, we spend the lowest amount on paying interest to our debt than other G7 countries.
That's a very very good news, sir. And then in terms of sir, in let's say health, really health. What is your assessment at this time, especially that the uh, it was already open, everything is open now. So, what is your assessment about the past pandemic?
It's a great question. I mean, I think the pandemic, we did everything we could to try to make sure people stayed safe and saved lives. And we saw where we had deficiencies in our system. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we did a really good job in bringing in vaccines. We were one of the first countries to be able to get everybody vaccinated if they wanted to be vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And the vaccine saved many, many lives, especially for vulnerable seniors. It made sure that instead of when they got sick, they didn't have to go to the hospital. They didn't have, and they didn't get critically ill. And I still encourage everybody who's vulnerable, meaning people 80 years old and 8 years of age and over, people who have chronic conditions, to keep getting vaccinated every 6 months when they become eligible. But what we also saw, Norberto, is that we had very big failures in our system, particularly for the seniors that were living in long-term care, where we saw that our standards for the number of nurses and the number of aides that are on the floor were way too small for the situation we have now, where people who go into these long-term care homes much older and with conditions like dementia, where they can't care for themselves at all, you can't have two people working on a floor of 60 patients. And during the pandemic, we saw how many people died in these facilities because our sanitary conditions were not satisfactory. People caught COVID, one from the other, and from healthcare workers that went between one facility that had COVID and another facility that didn't. And people died of things like malnutrition and lack of ability to be cared for with proper hydration. And so the federal government has taken steps to create national standards for long-term care so that everybody is across the country knows that when they go into a seniors facility, they have to have a minimum degree of care. And again, money will be provided to provinces that agree to accept those conditions. So I think we did a really good job in some ways. But in some ways, we learned that we have a lot of problems still in our system.
Thank you. That's a very honest answer, sir. I salute it. And again, sir, uh, in the budget of 2023, so do you think that there's nobody will be left behind, or nobody will be uh, can everyone really afford to buy food for their table? Do you think this budget really helps?
Well, I mean, I think the budget helps in the sense that for people who are lower income,
Mm-hmm.
there is again the new grocery supplement that again, nobody's going to say you can buy groceries all year round for the extra $467, but it does give you a little bit extra.
Mm-hmm.
You will have again the rental payment for low income renters. You have these savings that I highlighted in another group of savings. We're also at a point where we have almost full employment right now. So it is pretty easy for those people who are coming and looking for jobs to find a job. One of the things that is also important, again, for families, because there's a lot of families in my riding, is that the Canada Child Benefit, gives you up to $6,997, so almost $7,000 for children 6 years and under, and $6,000 for kids 6 through 17, which definitely helps parents. We're also reducing fees for childcare. We're helping the provinces do that. We're enhancing the Canada's worker benefit for the lowest paid essential workers by up to $24.61 for a family. And remember, we're adding in the dental care. So families who are struggling now will get dental care for their children, all the children under 18, and for the seniors 65 and over. So, I mean, I can go point to a lot of other things. Student loans. We've eliminated interest on student loans. So if you have kids in university that are taking student loans, now not only will they not need to pay interest, but they're also increasing the student loans from $210 to $300 per week of study. And nobody will need to repay their student loans until they're earning at least $40,000 a year. So one of the things I know in my, both in the Jewish community that I come from and the Filipino community, education is the most important thing. Parents all want their children to get the most educated possible so that they can succeed and do better than the parents. And they want everybody to go to college, to university, to vocational school, to make sure they have a degree to help them move forward. And so these steps that we're taking to make sure that everybody can get a college education. And again, I think it's a big deal that when you take a student loan now that you don't have to pay interest. That's a very big deal because people go bankrupt, from having to pay interest on their student loans. And now that there's no interest anymore on student loans, it makes a big difference. Look at the United States, for example. In the United States, you could take out student loans, and by the time you finish your degree, you're in debt by $200,000. And then the interest keeps accumulating on the $200,000 so that you could be 50 years old and you still haven't paid back your student loans. In Canada now, that will not happen, which is good. And also, you don't have to pay back your loans until you're earning a decent income. So I think that's a very important part of the budget that I think families throughout our riding, and young people in particular, who are wondering, can I afford to go to university? This is a very big thing.
Yeah, that's a good. Another thing, sir. You said that there is a subsidy for renters. So how to avail that one?
Well, unfortunately, we came on a few days late because the deadline for making the application was like a couple, like it was in March. You
Oh,
had to have made the application, or it's passed now. I think I'm almost sure. Let me just make sure, but I'm almost 100% sure it was in March, the deadline. But basically, it was $500 if you earned $20,000 or less in a year, and you were paying a certain percentage of your income toward rent. It's a top up of the Canada Housing Benefit, and unfortunately, it was March 31st. That was the deadline, which is yesterday.
oh my God.
I'm sorry about that.
How about you mentioned about the groceries, sir? How people can avail this one?
So
Is
that one will just go straight to you as a GST tax credit based on your income.
Okay.
So
So
if you're getting
postpaid.
a GST tax credit, like many people are, I think there's about 11 million Canadians that get a GST credit. It will come to you without having to make an application.
Okay. So that's a good thing that we will not anymore apply. But how about the
Yeah, the
dental?
reason, just Roberto, the reason the housing benefit you needed to apply for was
Yes.
because you needed to say what percentage of your income you were paying on rent, because the government wouldn't know what
Oh,
you're paying on rent.
yes,
But
sir.
the other one, the grocery benefit is based on your income that you declared. So that one, the government doesn't need additional information to just put the money in your account.
Yes, yes, sir. Mostly, sir, especially us here living in this apartment, every year we are experiencing a huge increase. So at this time, there's another increase. So probably 20-25% of our income goes to the rent and the other expenses of the house. So that's why I wonder if the government should give another extension for those people didn't apply, especially us. We didn't know that there's such $500 for that.
Oh, so just one thing. I send out weekly updates, and this
Mm-hmm.
has been in my weekly update about 8 or 9 times. So I suggest that you apply. You get on my list to get my weekly updates. And I would also suggest that anybody else who lives in the Mount Royal riding,
Mm-hmm.
please sign up at my office. It's anthony.housefather@parl.gc.ca. So again, my first name dot my last name at parl.gc.ca. Or just call my office at 514-283-0171, and just say, please put me on the list for the update, because that way I email you, and each week I tell you what are the things that you can apply for that may help you. That's really, really important. And the only thing I could do is provide the information to everybody.
Okay. And one thing, sir, you you mentioned about the dental, and when will be the time that uh, our age level will be included?
2025.
2025. Okay,
But
that's
everybody will be by 2025.
mm-hmm,
And so this year they're adding 18 and people 18 and under, 65 and over disabilities.
mm-hmm.
Um, Next year, I guess there'll be an additional added. And then by 2025, everybody $90,000 or less in terms of family income will be covered.
Okay, that's a very good news, sir. Anyway, uh, do you have any question? Those who are watching right now, because I think Koya Ramon, the question that he want me to ask you, I already asked. Eh, what else, sir? You can tell the people that who are listening and who are going to review this video later on. So what else you can tell them?
So just one other thing that I think is important is people in the Filipino community in Montreal know that there's anti-Asian racism going on in society. We've had a few unfortunate incidents locally of people of Filipino descent who have been harassed and attacked. Now, of course, that's less right now than Chinese Canadians who are suffering from it for, because of the allegations of election interference and so on by China. But there's 18 millions over 2 years to support the Canadian Race Relations Foundation to combat racism in Canada, including anti-Asian racism. And there's also, and this is important for the institutions, $49 million over the next 5 years to improve the security needs of communities that are facing racism. So, for example, if the FAMAS building needed to install security cameras, or there's now grants that will be available over the next 5 years to help community organizations that are threatened by anti-Asian racism to apply to get money to secure the buildings. So that's important as well. And there's a lot of stuff in this budget. I'm happy if anybody wants to email my office if they have specific questions. I'm always happy to answer them.
Okay. So again, if you want the email of Anthony Housefather, I think I have it here. I will plus it to you, so it's not hard for you to email him. So this is the email address of MP Anthony Housefather. Now in your screen. So where is it?
I didn't see it.
Here. I'm putting it. Okay. Here you go. And one. See,
That's it.
that's the email address of Anthony Housefather. So you can email him anytime. So I know that he will answer it right away.
Absolutely. My office will answer within 24 hours on any working day. And even on the weekends, we usually answer. So again, please reach out if I could ever do anything for anybody.
Okay. I will not tackle anything anything unless it's all about budget. I have a lot of questions to you, but I will not I will not utter it here because this one is all about budget. So again, sir, thank you so much for your time.
Absolute pleasure. Anytime. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.